Erharhire this morning as we get ready for everything business. Good morning, Daisy. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm well, thanks for asking. So maybe finer than you then, if you want me to just take all the credit.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get the listener involved this very early so they know what to do at the right time because business, they say, is also information. So if you're listening at this time, it's your first time, we would also like to hear what your thoughts are relating to the issues that Daisy will be helping us unpack this morning. Send it as WhatsApp message to 0809 444 Once again, get your thoughts in on Business Express this morning on 0809 444 is where we get the thoughts to, especially our clients. So let's get thoughts going this morning. The CBN is in the news once again. CBN to impose penalties on banks who check processing errors starting from the 1st of November. That's what I hear. Well, it seems since the coming of this new CBN governor, it's like, look, we would get some things sorted out as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So talk us through what the CBN of Nigeria, that's the central bank, is planning to do starting from November 1 in relation to deposit money banks.
So apparently, there seem to be certain errors with our checks lately, which has come to the attention of CBN. So usually, there's supposed to be a process that is being gone through to ensure that our checks come out authentic and genuine enough to use in the public. But of late, there's been a lot of rejections by this technology that we use to process these checks. So it has come to the CBN's attention of this situation, and they are making it a mandatory thing that deposits banks that you can easily walk into to deposit your cash and request for checks should ensure that they do their proper checks, proper examinations before they release these checks to the public to avoid certain issues or insecurities within the public. So they are giving them a automaton to ensure that they do their proper checks within their system before 1st of November, else there'll be some penalties which are yet to be communicated, issued to affected banks by the end of the day.
Okay, I have two more questions that worries me relating to that, and that has to do with the timing. This is the 19th of October already, and the deadline is for the 1st. Do you see this window being enough for the banks to get this sorted out?
I think so because this is not the first time that this has been brought to the awareness of deposit banks. There seemed to be a circular that had been passed sometime in 2018 or 2019 regarding this. So the warning has been, coming forth, but I think the increase in the number of rejections that we're getting, our rejection of rejection has been really alarming. So this is just CBN bringing it again to our knowledge. So I guess in the timeline, it's just to like put pressure on them to take it more seriously this time around, because I think we've given them like over 2-3 years to like implement this, but it seems that they've just been chilling around it. But this time around, there is like a pressure on them to ensure that they get it sorted out this time. So it's, I guess the next 3 weeks should be 3 weeks, more like 2 weeks should be enough for them to do their checks and ensure that their machines are functioning properly on or before 1st of November.
But looking at it from the outside, it just looks like this is typically everything else again. We must be pressured to act every time. There must be a deadline.
Well, you really would not blame. I don't really. From what we've understood so far with respect to this topic, I don't think I would blame the CBN for this one. Like I said before, there has been certain memos that have been sent to the deposit banks all the while. So why they've not taken action, why they have not looked at their machines all of this time, I do not know. We do not know why. So whatever pressure the CBN is putting on them, I think it's for their own, because checks are, if you take a check that cannot be validated to a bank, they would easily reject it, and you end up having issues between customers and businesses. So in order to reduce all of those security insecurities and customer trust issues, I think it's best, they put this pressure on them now so they get to do what they are supposed to do as soon as possible.
Now, for me to drift away gradually from, these other issues now, I see that you should be able to tell us about this. Let's put it out there that you are a customer representative specialist at Raven Bank. So this takes me to the question of, do people still issue checks with the amount of the volume of e-transactions we see right now? There used to be people still using checks.
Okay, so first of all, Raven Bank is more actually a microfinance bank. So we're not a working kind of bank. We're not a deposit money bank. So money banks are your commercial banks, the UPS and the rest of them. Right. So, but we posed a question. I think people still do that, especially when you want to when you want to check out a very high volume of income. So people still actually go to the bank to make withdrawals. Even as recent as last week, a friend of mine actually reached out to me to even find out, how much she could, if she could walk into the bank to make certain kind of withdrawal, a certain amount. So people still actually do walk into the bank to make withdrawals at the bank. So it's just, and some people still prefer their money in cash. Some people still, so I know people that are still walking to the bank to just issue check to get the money in cash. So some people still prefer having their money in cash. They don't really do the whole in-transact kind of thing. So yeah, I believe people still use check as much as before.
Now, this takes us to why the Central Bank of Nigeria advising the deposit money banks to examine the in-house checks processing equipment, and what's the specific concern?
So, like I earlier stated, there's been a lot of rejects from the MICR. So the MICR, first of all, is a magnetic ink character
recognition
technology that actually helps, that's used in banking and financial industry to verify checks and check how genuine they are before they are being released to the public. So when deposit banks go through the process of converting their paper check to electric magnetic images, the process, of course, they have to ensure that the data on the check is accurate. Images on check are accurate to avoid any destruction of images or data during the check truncation process. So all of these issues have to be addressed. They have to ensure that the information on the check is accurate. There are no image destruction or data on the check. And of course, they also have to check their machines, right? Because they have to ensure that it is properly supervised and recalibrated before they start the whole process. And whoever is in charge of examining and supervising all of this process has to do a very good job. So before it even gets to the point where that their machine converts the check from paper check to electric or magnetic check, they have to ensure that data and everything are in place. So CBN is currently putting it to them to ensure that they work with their person, whoever is in charge of doing all of this in the different bank branches, should ensure they work with their person to get all of this correct, to avoid concerns that might be raised up. Of course, you have to ensure that concerns could be insecurities, like I initially stated, right? Customer trust. You don't want people getting checks from their customers and taking it to the bank and they're like, oh no, something looks wrong with this check. And it's a whole lot of process, because you know how all these bankers would have to get you to chill for them to check, verify that the check is good, the customer has the money, and all those plenty processes. So in order to reduce all of those stress, they should ensure that they do their own proper check on their end to reduce issues with customer trust, insecurities. And of course, regulatory compliance generally. We have to ensure that the banks are complying with whatever laws and policies that have been laid out with respect to creating of checks in different banks. So this is like the major concerns for CBN and why they are, why they are putting it out there to deposit banks to ensure that they do their examination properly in-house and before raising to the public.
Honestly, as you giving us this explanation, my mind flashes back to the check my bank gave, the booklet. It's there. I just go once in a while and see that, it just looks so antique and look at. I wish it were money and you just spend it, but it's just there.
If you really go back and check properly to ensure that your data, the that everything are checked, so that you don't want to wake up and you want
Yeah.
to issue a check to somebody, and the person walks into the bank, and when they are trying to verify the check, they're like, oh, something looks wrong, and it make you feel like you issued a fake check.
You don't check.
Meanwhile, it's not your fault. It's actually maybe from where you got the check from. So you might want to try it and see that you actually have a check that is good to go.
Okay, looks like a fine place where we get back to the listener clients this morning to let them know they can be part of this conversation. Let's read your messages if you've got experience with checks lately to see how timely this directive by the central bank is coming at this time. I see a few dropping in already, but just do yours and let's have it on 0809 444 0981. Once again, 0809 444 0981. And you're on to Business Express this morning, and I've got Daisy Erharhire speaking with us this morning, breaking it down, setting the agenda for a business this morning for us. A final question for you before we get to the messages now. What penalties will be imposed on these banks that have these MICR, that's the magnetic ink recognition character rejects, starting from the 1st of November, according to the article?
Oh, so the article doesn't have so much information to best of my knowledge yet. So, but I want to believe, like I said initially, there seemed to be a law that had been passed out initially, regarding ensuring that checks are being properly vetted before they are released. So whatever penalty the CBN is going to be putting out there to the deposit banks should be somewhat in line with whatever law or policy has been released previously. So to the best of my knowledge, the penalty has not been outrightly stated yet, but we'll keep following up and to stay updated on what it will be for them. But I just hope that nobody loses their license at the end of the day, Sha. So
okay.
Yeah, that's the best of at the moment.
So it seems there has to be consequence to get people to act appropriately most times, especially in the business environment and when money is involved too.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if the messages will come in now on 0809 444 0981. We've got the time now to get the messages over with. So let's see the first ones dropping for us this morning. I see Tayo here. Tayo sent in a message and it says, CBN has hit the ground running. It should remember, that's probably the CBN governor, I mean to say Cardoso, should remember that it's a marathon, not a sprint. These operators have to be led by the nose with a fine and sanction, even you point to where they should go with directives. So that's what he had to say. And he's got, okay, this one is not, okay, and then he was still going to refer to my checks when I should be expecting. All right, so Tayo, well, we'll see. He has the right to even refer to, he's asking when should he expect a check from me? Everybody just wants.
It sounds like you're very capable of issuing, a check. I mean, people that actually have checks, it says a lot. I mean, you're not in a million. Okay, you are in a million.
I am not in the. I'm not in the. I'm not in their equals league. I'm not in their league. Come on.
Oh, really? Okay. We'll find out soon.
Let's get on to Oluboroko, who sent us a message here. Says the older generation to use checks, still use checks a lot, and these guys deal with large volume of cash. And therefore, with the CBN on this deadline, our banks need to wake up. That's what this message is saying. So it seemed like the old school, if this is the way we've been doing it, it still checks. Let's stay with it that way. So we have to also carry every member of segment of society along in terms of banking services. So that's done. Who else would I find dropping in here? Yinka Bolu. Yinka Bolu comes up with a very lengthy one, so we'll close up with this one. I think the real conversation should be, what's the volume of the folks using checks as of today to those utilizing e-channels, like I asked. And now, other than is that, I don't think that's Yinka Bolu's dad. I don't think anyone does in his family. If you use that as a test sample, then checks should have been phased out. The last money madness showed us one thing about our banks, and it's that our e-channels haven't really gone through proper stress tests, meaning they can't handle pressure. And that's one thing the CBN needs to hold the banks by the scruff, you meant to say. I had to twist it the other way. Now, the only consequence we want to see is the CBN going after those POS operators. They can't be allowed to go scot-free. As many as
Who is this? Lord. Okay, I think I lost
want to say
it.
thank you so much for giving us your time. Have a great day.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for having me as always. Just great to be here.
So we talk to you tomorrow to be Tech Friday
Yes,
edition. All right.
yes.
Have a great day. Stay safe.
All right, then.
Bye. And to everyone who sent in messages, Yinka, Bolu, Tayo, and everyone I see on Luboroko, thank you all very much. We'll be back here tomorrow. Stay tuned. We're Smooth 98.1 FM. My name is Omatseye Atsenuwa. Good morning.
We could focus on the Nigerian economy.